The bullet screamed past Adaeze's face so close she felt its heat kiss her cheek. No sound came out. Her throat had locked, her breath trapped somewhere between her lungs and her lips. Tae-hyung's fingers clamped around her arm like a steel trap, jerking her sideways so hard pain shot through her shoulder blade. They crashed against cold marble as more shots ripped through the air where her skull had been a heartbeat before. "Don't move." Tae-hyung's voice cut clean through the chaos. Adaeze's pulse hammered so violently she thought her ribs might crack. The rooftop garden party had exploded into pure pandemonium. Seoul's most powerful were diving behind toppled tables, their champagne glasses shattering across imported stone. A woman in Versace stumbled past them, eyeliner streaking down her terror-stricken face. But how did it come to this? How did one slap spiral into absolute nightmare? Welcome back, friends. This is Prince of Afro-Korean stories, where passion, danger, and impossible romance intersect. Please keep sharing your ideas for future episodes. And kindly like, share, and subscribe, and activate notifications so you never miss our latest content. Then drop a comment telling me your location, Seoul, Chicago, somewhere between. I want to know who's bold enough to hear what really happened. That slap still echoed in Adaeze's memory. She could feel the sting radiating through her palm, could still see the shock that washed over Tae-hyung's face like he'd forgotten physical pain existed. Those dark eyes had gone wide, a man struck by something he thought impossible. The Korean models around them had frozen mid-motion, lipsticks hovering, phones already rising to capture what would break the internet within minutes. 6 hours before, everything had been ordinary. Well, as ordinary as Seoul Fashion Week could be for a Lagos-born designer fighting to carve out her space in a foreign industry. Adaeze had been making final adjustments to her Adaeze silk hybrid dress, the piece she'd poured 4 months into perfecting. The fabric sang, bold indigo geometric patterns from traditional Nigerian attire woven seamlessly with Korean silk, honoring both heritages without compromising either. Her box braids, threaded with silver wire, fell past her shoulders. She'd felt invincible. Ready. This was supposed to be her breakthrough. The other models had been chattering rapid-fire Korean, their excitement infectious even though Adaeze caught maybe one word in 4. 6 months in Seoul had taught her subway navigation and how to order bibimbap, but full-speed conversations still left her trailing behind. Then the ceiling vent had exploded inward. The man who dropped through looked like he'd stepped off a runway and straight into combat. His Tom Ford suit was pristine except for dust coating his shoulders and what looked disturbingly like blood spatters on his collar. His hair, long enough to make poets weep, hung wild around a face carved from ice and danger. Ink crawled up his neck, disappearing beneath expensive fabric. For one suspended moment, everyone stared. Then Adaeze's instincts kicked in. Strange man. Women's changing area. Dust and blood. Nothing added up right. Her palm connected with his face before thought could catch up to action. The crack echoed like thunder. Tae-hyung stood there, hands slowly rising to his reddening cheek, and for the first time in what Adaeze would later learn was nearly a decade, someone had caught Seoul's most dangerous man completely off guard. "You sick bastard," Adaeze had started, her accent thick with fury. "What kind of pervert climbs into women's dressing rooms like some boss?" A voice crackled from somewhere on Tae-hyung's body. "Boss, we registered impact. Status report." The room went silent enough to hear heartbeats. Then the door burst open. 3 men in tactical black stormed through, weapons raised. But their guns didn't point at Tae-hyung. They swung toward the models, toward Adaeze specifically. In that crystalline instant, she understood she was about to die. Tae-hyung moved like violence choreographed to music. His elbow crushed the first attacker's throat with a wet crunch. The man collapsed, clawing at his ruined windpipe. The second tried to aim, but Tae-hyung caught his wrist, twisted it backward with casual cruelty, and used the man's own hand to shoot the third attacker's kneecap. The gunshot was deafening. The third man went down screaming. The first attacker, still gasping for air, lunged forward and grabbed Adaeze from behind. His forearm locked across her throat, cutting off oxygen. She clawed uselessly at him, panic flooding every nerve. Tae-hyung's hand shot out, fingers wrapping around Adaeze's wrist. He yanked her against his chest so forcefully the attacker's grip snapped. She felt Tae-hyung's heartbeat against her spine, steady as a metronome, while he broke the attacker's wrist with his free hand. The man crumpled like discarded laundry. 8 seconds. 3 armed operatives, neutralized. 8 seconds. Adaeze was pressed against Tae-hyung's chest, his arms still protective around her waist. She tilted her head back and their eyes met. His were bottomless, burning with something unnameable. Time suspended itself. Then Tae-hyung released her, stepped back, and smoothed his hair as if he'd just finished a tedious meeting rather than a fight for survival. "Apologies, ladies," he said, voice smooth as aged whiskey. He walked out, stepping over unconscious bodies like they were cushions. The room erupted. "Oh my God, who was that?" One model grabbed her phone, fingers flying. "He looks like something carved from moonlight." "Stop it," Adaeze snapped, her hands shaking so badly she had to press them together. "Armed men just attacked us. Men with guns. And you're worried about some pretty face?" "Wait, wait, wait." Another model thrust her phone forward, screen glowing. "That's not just anyone. That's Kim Tae-hyung. The Kim Tae-hyung." Adaeze stared. The man on screen matched the one she just slapped, but polished, refined, devastating in a Dior campaign shoot. His hair styled to perfection, those neck tattoos on full display, his expression dangerous in a way that probably made marketing departments salivate. "He's the face of everything," the model continued, scrolling frantically. "Dior, Chanel, Givenchy. Every luxury brand fights for him. He's untouchable. He's the man I just slapped," Adaeze whispered. The models turned to her in unison, expressions ranging from awe to horror to barely contained glee. "You slapped Kim Tae-hyung," one said slowly, testing the words. "You actually slapped Kim Tae-hyung." Someone started recording. Within minutes, the video was everywhere. Now, 6 hours later, Adaeze was sprawled on a rooftop while that same impossibly beautiful, impossibly dangerous man shielded her body with his own as bullets carved through Seoul's night air. Tae-hyung's hand was still locked around her wrist. Through his suit jacket, she felt coiled muscle, controlled power. He pulled her up in one fluid motion, his other hand drawing a pistol from an ankle holster she hadn't known existed. "Can you run in those heels?" he asked, conversational despite the chaos. Adaeze looked down at her 6-inch stilettos, the Adaeze silk dress suddenly feeling like a death sentence. "I can run in anything," she lied. Tae-hyung's mouth quirked slightly. "Good. We're about to test that." He moved and she moved with him, their bodies synchronizing impossibly for two people who'd met hours ago. They sprinted toward the rooftop edge while gunfire chased them, sparks flying where bullets struck metal railings. A helicopter searchlight suddenly flooded everything, turning night into artificial day. Adaeze threw up her hand against the blinding glare. "Jump!" Tae-hyung shouted. "What?" Adaeze skidded to a stop at the edge. Below was 15 feet of empty Seoul air with the street a lethal distance below. "Trust me." Tae-hyung's arm wrapped around her waist. I don't even know you. He jumped, pulling her with him. For one heartbeat, they were airborne. Adaeze's scream caught in her throat. Wind whipped her braids backward. City lights blurred into golden streaks. Tae-hyung's arm was iron around her waist, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. They hit the adjacent rooftop hard, rolling across concrete. Adaeze's dress tore, skin scraping raw. But they were alive. Boss, a voice crackled in Tae-hyung's ear, loud enough for Adaeze to hear. Boss, full assault. 30 operatives, maybe more. Someone leaked your location. Tae-hyung dragged Adaeze to her feet, already moving toward the fire escape. How many are ours? Just me and Jean at perimeter. Everyone else is 3 minutes out. 3 minutes is forever. Tae-hyung's jaw clenched. Get to extraction point Omega. We'll meet you there. They clattered down the fire escape, Adaeze's heels ringing against metal. Her mind reeled, trying to process everything, failing spectacularly. They hit the alley running. Tae-hyung's hand found hers again, pulling her through darkness between Seoul's glittering buildings. Behind them, shouts in multiple languages echoed off concrete. Here. Tae-hyung stopped beside a motorcycle in the shadows. Not just any motorcycle, a Ducati Panigale, sleek and black and probably worth more than Adaeze's entire annual income. You're joking, Adaeze panted. We're escaping on a motorcycle in evening wear? Tae-hyung was already swinging his leg over, hands moving with practiced efficiency. Would you prefer discussing transportation with the people shooting at us? Fair point. If this hooked you already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment because what happens next will absolutely shatter your expectations. The engine roared to life with controlled thunder. Tae-hyung looked back at her, and even in dim alley light, his eyes were intense enough to steal breath. Get on. Hold tight. Don't let go no matter what. Adaeze hiked up her ruined dress and climbed on behind him. Her arms wrapped around his waist and she felt solid warmth, controlled strength. This close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that somehow survived gunfights and rooftop escapes. Ready? He asked. Not even close. He gunned it. The motorcycle shot forward like a bullet. Adaeze's scream was lost in the engine's roar and rush of wind. They burst from the alley into Seoul's nighttime traffic, weaving between cars with recklessness that should have been illegal. Probably was illegal. Behind them, headlights flared. 2 black SUVs, maybe 3, giving chase. Tae-hyung took a corner so sharp Adaeze felt the bike tilting, her knee nearly scraping asphalt. She pressed herself against his back, arms locked around him like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Who are these people? She shouted over the wind. Crimson Lotus, Tae-hyung shouted back. Chinese-Korean triad. Very angry. Very armed. Why are they shooting at us? Long story. They rocketed through Dongdaemun, the massive shopping district a blur of neon and steel. Pedestrians scattered. Horns blared. An SUV pulled alongside, window rolling down, gun barrel emerging. Tae-hyung didn't hesitate. He twisted the throttle, the Ducati surging forward with a scream of pure speed. They shot through a gap between 2 buses that couldn't have been more than 6 inches wider than the bike. The SUV tried to follow and clipped a bus's bumper, spinning out in a shower of sparks. One down, Tae-hyung's voice carried dark satisfaction. They plunged into the labyrinth of Dongdaemun Market, weaving through narrow passages between vendor stalls. Fabric samples fluttered in their wake. A tower of cardboard boxes exploded as they grazed it. Adaeze caught a glimpse of a vendor's shocked face, mouth hanging open. The remaining SUVs were too wide to follow, their engines growling in frustration from the market's entrance. Tae-hyung didn't slow until they'd emerged on the other side and put 3 more blocks between them and pursuit. Finally, he guided the Ducati into an abandoned warehouse district, killing the engine in the shadow of a building that looked untouched since the 90s. Silence crashed over them like a wave. Adaeze's hands shook as she climbed off the bike. Her legs felt like water. Her heart was trying to escape through her throat. She took 2 steps, turned, and faced Tae-hyung. What the hell was that? Tae-hyung swung off the motorcycle with fluid grace, running a hand through windswept hair. Even after a gunfight and high-speed chase, he looked runway ready. It was infuriating. That was the Crimson Lotus triad attempting to kill us both. I got that part, Adaeze's voice climbed. What I don't understand is why. I'm a fashion designer. I make dresses. People don't shoot at people who make dresses. They do when those people are connected to Chief Okonkwo Namdi. The world stopped. Adaeze stared at Tae-hyung, her father's name hanging in the air like smoke. How do you know my father's name? Because your father and I. Headlights flooded the warehouse. Adaeze's heart, which had just started slowing, kicked back into overdrive. Tae-hyung's hand went to his gun, body tensing for another fight. But the vehicles rolling toward them weren't black SUVs. They were armored sedans. And as they stopped in a defensive perimeter, men and women in tactical gear emerged, moving with military precision, weapons drawn but pointed down. Boss, a man jogged forward, lean and sharp-featured, maybe 30. We've secured the perimeter. No Crimson Lotus in a 3-block radius. Tae-hyung relaxed fractionally. Casualties? Jean took a graze on his shoulder. Nothing serious. Everyone else clean. The man's gaze slid to Adaeze, curiosity evident. This is her, Tae-hyung said, voice carefully neutral. Adaeze Namdi, meet Park Min-jae. My second in command. Adaeze looked between them, her mind struggling to construct reality that made sense. Second in command of what exactly? Your modeling agency? Min-jae laughed, sharp and bright. Oh, I like her. She's funny. She's also confused and probably traumatized, Tae-hyung said. Get us to the Kangwon safe house. Full security protocol. And Min-jae, find out how Crimson Lotus knew I'd be at that party. Someone talked. Min-jae's expression hardened. On it, boss. You still with me? Comment below if you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, because this story is about to go somewhere none of us expected. Within minutes, Adaeze found herself in the back of an armored sedan, Tae-hyung beside her. The interior was all black leather and tinted windows, a privacy screen separating them from the driver. As they pulled onto the highway heading out of Seoul, reality finally crashed over Adaeze like cold water. Her hands started shaking again, adrenaline wearing off, leaving exhaustion and shock. Hey, Tae-hyung's voice was softer than she'd heard it. You're okay. Breathe. Breathe? Adaeze's laugh came out broken. Men just tried to kill me on a rooftop after I went to a party I didn't even want to attend because some stranger called me and said my father's legacy depended on it, which makes no sense because my father was a businessman who died in a car accident 3 years ago, except apparently you know something about that and I can't. She was hyperventilating, the sedan's interior suddenly too small, air too thin. Tae-hyung reached across, his hand settling on her shoulder with surprising gentleness. Look at me, he said. Adaeze looked at him. His eyes were dark and steady, anchoring her. In through your nose. hold for 4. Out through your mouth. With me. They breathed together. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Once. Twice. 5 times. 10. Slowly, Adaeze's heart rate settled. The world stopped tilting. Better? Tae-hyung asked. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. He didn't move his hand from her shoulder. Now, I'm going to tell you some things. They're going to be hard to hear, but I need you to stay calm because we have about an hour's drive ahead, and I need you functional when we arrive. Can you do that? Can I? I just survived an assassination attempt on a motorcycle in 6-inch heels. I think I can handle some information. The corner of Tae-hyung's mouth lifted. That's the spirit. He settled back, finally removing his hand. Adaeze found herself missing the warmth. Your father wasn't just a businessman. Chief Okonkwo Nnamdi was one of the most brilliant smugglers I've ever known. The words landed like physical blows. No. No, my father owned textile factories, import-export, legitimate business. He did own textile factories, very successful ones. They were also perfect cover for moving conflict diamonds and rare fabrics through Nigerian ports. Tae-hyung's voice was matter-of-fact, neither condemning nor defending. He worked with an organization called the White Dragon Syndicate. We handle high-value acquisitions and strategic distribution across 3 continents. We? Adaeze's voice strangled. You're part of this crime organization? I run it. The sedan hummed along the highway, Seoul's lights fading behind them, replaced by darkness and occasional glow of small towns. You're insane, Adaeze said finally. This whole night is insane. You're telling me my father who taught me Igbo proverbs, who took me to church every Sunday, who cried at my university graduation, was a criminal? Your father was many things. Criminal, yes. But also a man trying to build a better life for his daughter. Everything he did, every risk he took, was for you. Don't, Adaeze's voice cracked. Don't you dare try to make this noble. If what you're saying is true, he lied to me. My entire life was a lie. Your father loved you. That was never a lie. How would you even know? Because Chief Okonkwo saved my life when I was 19. Tae-hyung's gaze went distant, remembering. I was nobody. A street kid in Seoul with a talent for fighting and nothing to lose. Your father was in Korea for a textile deal and saw me take down 5 men who tried to rob him. He asked me one question, do you want to survive or do you want to live? I chose to live. He took me in, trained me, taught me everything about the business. When he went back to Lagos, I stayed in Seoul and built the White Dragon Syndicate from the ground up. Adaeze processed this, mind reeling. So you were like, what? His protege? More like the son he never had. Tae-hyung's expression was unreadable. He talked about you constantly. My brilliant Adaeze, she's going to change the world with her designs. He was so proud of you. Tears burned behind Adaeze's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. If he cared so much, why did he die in a car accident and leave me alone? Because it wasn't an accident. The sedan turned, tires humming. Through windows, Adaeze could see they were entering mountainous terrain. 3 years ago, your father wanted out. He'd made enough money, built enough legitimate businesses. He wanted to retire, disappear, spend his remaining years watching you build your fashion empire. But when you're in as deep as Chief Okonkwo was, you don't just walk away. The Crimson Lotus couldn't allow it. He knew too much, had too much leverage. So they killed him. Adeeze's throat felt tight. If you're still here, subscribe, because stories like this only work when people stay. Car bomb. Lagos third mainland bridge. They made it look like an accident, but I knew. Tae-hyung's hands clenched into fists. I was supposed to be there that day. Your father and I had a meeting scheduled. He called me that morning, told me to stay in Seoul, that something felt wrong. 2 hours later, he was dead. The sedan climbed higher into mountains, temperature dropping. Why didn't they come after you? Adeeze asked quietly. They tried. For 2 years, Crimson Lotus and White Dragon have been locked in shadow war. Assassinations, sabotage, territorial disputes. It's been expensive. But what does any of this have to do with me? I'm not part of your world. I make dresses. I went to design school in London. I've never even gotten a parking ticket. Before your father died, he created insurance. A ledger containing every transaction, every name, every dirty secret of both organizations. Politicians we've paid off, routes we use, warehouse locations, bank accounts. Everything. If that ledger goes public, it destroys both White Dragon and Crimson Lotus completely. Understanding hit Adeeze like ice water. And they think I have it. Your father's last communication to me was cryptic. He said if something happens, the dragon's true treasure is with my daughter. She holds everything. We thought he meant the ledger. Crimson Lotus thought the same. But I don't have any ledger. Adeeze's voice rose. I don't have anything except student loans and fabric samples and a small apartment in Yaba that I share with my friend Kayamika. I don't. I believe you. Tae-hyung's gaze was steady. Which means we need to figure out what your father actually meant. Because until we do, Crimson Lotus will keep coming for you. And now that you've been seen with me publicly at that party. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The sedan began to slow. Through the windshield, Adeeze could see they were approaching a traditional Korean house, a hanok nestled into the mountainside. Beautiful in an austere way, all clean lines and natural materials, completely isolated. This is the Kangwon safe house, Tae-hyung said. Only my most trusted people know about it. You'll be secure here while we figure this out. They climbed out into mountain air so cold and clean it stung Adeeze's lungs. Her ruined dress was wholly inadequate. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. Without a word, Tae-hyung shrugged out of his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was still warm from his body heat, smelled like his cologne and gunpowder and something uniquely him. Thank you, Adeeze said quietly. Min-jae was already at the door, punching in a security code. Lights activated inside, warm and welcoming. The team moved with efficient purpose, securing perimeter, checking sight lines, establishing defensive positions. Inside, the hanok was minimalist elegance. Heated floors, low furniture, traditional screens mixed with modern security monitors. A safe house that didn't look like one. There are bedrooms upstairs, Min-jae said, addressing Adeeze. We'll get you clothes that actually fit. Food in 20 minutes. Boss, secure line is ready in your office. Tae-hyung nodded. Get some rest, Min-jae. You've earned it. As the team dispersed, Adeeze found herself alone with Tae-hyung in the main room. A floor-to-ceiling window looked out onto dark mountains and stars so bright they seemed touchable. I should call Kayamika, Adeeze said suddenly. My roommate. She's probably losing her mind. The last she heard, I was going to a party and then, she patted her dress, realized she'd lost her clutch somewhere between rooftop and motorcycle. I don't have my phone. It's better if you don't contact anyone right now. Tae-hyung said gently. Crimson Lotus will be monitoring your known associates. Any communication could put your friend in danger. So I'm just supposed to disappear? She'll call the police. She'll think I've been kidnapped or worse. Technically, you have been kidnapped. Adaeze stared at him. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. But there was something in his eyes, a glimmer of dark humor. I'll have Min-jae send an anonymous message to your friend. Something to let her know you're safe without revealing location. Will that help? It would have to. Adaeze nodded. A woman appeared from the kitchen, middle-aged and efficient, carrying a tray with tea and small dishes of banchan. This is Mrs. Shin, Tae-hyung said. She manages the property, doesn't speak English, but she's the best cook in 3 provinces. Mrs. Shin bowed, set down the tray, and disappeared as quietly as she'd come. Adaeze sank onto one of the low cushions. Her feet screamed from the heels, which she finally kicked off. Her body was one large bruise. Tae-hyung settled across from her with unconscious grace, pouring tea. I still can't believe this is happening, Adaeze said, accepting the tea. This morning, I was worried about whether my stitching was too visible on a hem. That was my biggest problem. Visible stitching. What was the dress for? The question surprised her. What? The dress. The one you were worried about. What was it for? Adaeze blinked. Why do you care? I'm curious. You're a designer. That's not a cover, not a lie. It's who you are. So tell me about your work. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe shock. Maybe the simple human need to grasp something normal. Whatever the reason, Adaeze found herself talking. It was for the Paradigm Fashion House Spring Collection. They gave me a slot, just one, but it's huge for someone like me. The dress was a fusion piece, a dyer fabric from Nigeria woven with Korean silk. I wanted to show that different cultures don't have to clash. They can enhance each other, create something beautiful and new. She paused. I sound pretentious. You sound passionate. Tae-hyung's gaze was intent. Your father used to talk about your passion for design. He said you could see possibilities in fabric that other people missed. He really talked about me that much? Constantly. It was annoying actually. A small smile played at Tae-hyung's lips. Every phone call. Adaeze got accepted to this program. Adaeze's design won this award. You should see what my daughter created. I knew your entire academic and professional history before I ever met you. Adaeze felt tears threatening again. I wish he'd told me about you. About any of this. At least then I could have been prepared. There's no preparing for this world. You just survive it. Tae-hyung's expression grew serious. Which brings me to an important question. Tomorrow morning, Min-jae will start investigating what your father might have meant by his message. We need to access his old files, his properties, anything he might have left behind. That means you need to decide. Are you in this, or do you want out? Out? Adaeze laughed bitterly. You just told me Crimson Lotus is trying to kill me. How do I get out? I can arrange protection. New identity, new location. You'd have to leave Seoul, leave your career here, but you'd be safe. We'd hunt for the ledger without you. Once we found it, once the threat was neutralized, you could go back to your life. Could I? Adaeze met his eyes. After everything I now know, after learning my father was a criminal and I'm apparently the key to some international crime war, do I just go back to worrying about visible stitching? Some people would choose that. There's no shame in wanting a normal life. And what's the alternative? You help us find the ledger. You're your father's daughter. You might see connections, understand clues that we'd miss. You'd be in danger, but you'd also have the full resources of White Dragon protecting you. And when this is over, you'd have answers. Real answers about who your father was and why he made the choices he made. Adaeze thought about her father. About Sunday church services and university graduations and the way he'd cried when she'd shown him her first real design, a simple dress she'd made at 15. She thought about all the questions that had haunted her since his death. I want answers, she said finally. I want to understand. Then you're in. I'm in. Something shifted in Tae-hyung's expression. Relief maybe. Or respect. Good. Because I think your father chose you for a reason. He was brilliant. He wouldn't have left his legacy to chance. A yawn caught Adaeze by surprise, so wide her jaw cracked. The adrenaline crash was complete now. Tae-hyung stood with fluid grace. Mrs. Shin prepared a room for you. Second floor, first door on the right. There should be clothes that fit. We'll start fresh in the morning. Adaeze rose, her body protesting every movement. At the stairs base, she paused and turned back. Tae-hyung? He looked up from where he'd begun reviewing something on a tablet. Yes? Thank you for saving my life tonight. Multiple times. His expression was unreadable. Thank me when this is over and you're still alive. It wasn't comforting, but it was honest. Adaeze climbed the stairs to find the room exactly as promised. Someone, probably Mrs. Shin, had laid out comfortable clothes. Adaeze showered, washing away grime and blood and fear. When she finally collapsed into bed, her mind was still racing, but her body overruled it. She was asleep within minutes. Downstairs, Tae-hyung stood at the window, staring out at dark mountains. Min-jae appeared beside him, 2 glasses and a bottle of expensive whiskey in hand. She's tougher than she looks, Min-jae observed, pouring. Chief Okonkwo's daughter. I'd expect nothing less. Tae-hyung accepted the glass. What's the status? Jin's wound is cleaned and dressed. Perimeters secure. I've got teams working on how Crimson Lotus knew about tonight's party. Min-jae's expression darkened. Boss, it had to be someone close. That event was invitation only, location kept quiet until 6 hours before. I know. Tae-hyung sipped the whiskey. Make a list of everyone who knew. Everyone. We'll go through them one by one. You think we have a mole? I think Chief Okonkwo didn't die by accident. And 3 years later, his daughter nearly dies at a party I'm hosting. The timing isn't coincidental. Tae-hyung's grip tightened on his glass. Someone's playing a long game. I want to know who. Min-jae nodded, pulled out his phone, fingers already flying. I'll have preliminary data by morning. What about the girl? Adaeze. Tae-hyung's tone was mild but carried an edge. Her name is Adaeze, not the girl. And she's staying. She's going to help us find the ledger. Min-jae's eyebrows rose. You trust her? I trust that she wants answers as badly as we do. And I trust that Chief Okonkwo didn't leave his final message to chance. If he said she holds everything, then she does. We just need to figure out how. They stood in silence. 2 men who'd survived things that should have killed them, contemplating the puzzle that was Chief Okonkwo's last gift to the world. Boss, Min-jae said quietly. The way you look at her. Don't. Tae-hyung's voice went flat. Don't go there. I'm just saying, getting emotionally involved. I said don't. Tae-hyung drained his whiskey and set the glass down with precise care. Get some rest, Min-jae. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. Min-jae recognized a dismissal. He bowed slightly and left, but his concerned expression lingered. Alone, Tae-hyung returned to the window. Somewhere in those dark mountains, enemies were plotting. Somewhere in Seoul, Crimson Lotus was regrouping. And upstairs, Chief Okonkwo's daughter slept, unaware she'd walked into a war brewing for 3 years. Tae-hyung touched his cheek where she'd slapped him. No one had dared touch him in violence in nearly a decade. His reputation alone kept most threats at bay. But Adaeze had seen a threat and acted without hesitation, without fear, without knowing who he was or what he could do. Chief Okonkwo had been right about his daughter. She was extraordinary. And Tae-hyung was going to make sure she survived long enough to realize it. We've reached the conclusion of our compelling African-Korean story. If you want to see what happens when Adaeze and Tae-hyung uncover the truth her father left behind, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove love can heal the deepest wounds. Share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Your support means everything to me. Drop a comment below telling us what you about what Chief Okonkwo hid, let us know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.